My speech is on why graffiti should be considered art. We've all been told graffiti is bad and shouldn't happen. But why not? Has it just been ingrained into our psyche that graffiti is bad? That it's associated with rule breakers and lawless people? Well, I'm here today to persuade you that graffiti isn't bad and that it's art and should be considered as such. The main topics of my speech are the history of graffiti, the meaning of graffiti, the laws that affect art and should affect graffiti, and why it should be considered art. From the article, Street and Graffiti, Art Concepts and Styles, we get the history of graffiti. But before I start, I'll give you the definition. Graffiti is defined as writing, drawing, or painting on walls or surfaces of a structure. Graffiti started in prehistoric times, as you see on this picture. It was often to show victories and to commemorate them, or they were used as rituals to help increase their chances of being successful. As you can see, this is a picture of 4 horses. Now, we don't exactly know what it means because it's just a picture of 4 horses. Maybe that day they killed 4 horses. Maybe they wanted to kill 4 horses to get more meat for their tribe. We'll never know, but there's meaning to it. It was also seen in World War II. Here is the graffiti, Kilroy was here. Kilroy was here was used by the soldiers for motivation and to create a motif connection during those difficult times. Their goal was to pretty much say, see, I've been here, as lots of people do when they take selfies. This was cementing their unique brotherhood amongst foreign lands. They wanted to show people that they were here. This was mostly used amongst American soldiers, and they wanted to show people where they had been. In the late 1960s, we get to more contemporary graffiti with more colors. Before we had seen that there was mostly red or just designs, but now we get to more colorful graffiti. Contemporary graffiti, like I said, started back in the late 1960s and generally rose from Black and Latino neighborhoods of New York City. This coincided with the rise of hip-hop music and street subcultures and was catalyzed by the aerosol spray can. As you know, spray paint nowadays comes in aerosol cans. This was started by people called taggers, and these people, their goal was to tag or put their signature in as many places as they possibly could. It was to get their name out there. And like we see in this picture, it was on train cars mostly, because train cars went everywhere, they could get their name out there and such. The meaning of graffiti, there's many. In every different graffiti art that you see, there's a different meaning. But essentially, graffiti as a whole is a persuasive symbolic communication around the globe. I have been to multiple countries and I have seen this firsthand. From London to Paris, you see it everywhere, even in Greece. It's there, and it's not just there as vandalism, it's there with a meaning. Often, nowadays, graffiti is not used as it was before. Before, in like the late 1960s, 70s, 80s, graffiti was used as defiance, as a, you can't stop me. Now it has meaning. Graffiti now is a merge between context and message. Lots of people who don't know the context of graffiti don't understand the message. That's mostly why they don't like this. In the article, The Meaning of Graffiti and Interpretation, we get this exact knowledge. They say that when context and message is merged, it gives a rise to unique symbolic expression. and that's extremely important. The laws of art. In visualizing a new Artists' Rights Act, when does the law protect graffiti? We learn about the Visual Artists' Rights Act. This was passed by Congress in 1990, and it's considered the first federal copyright legislation to grant protection to moral rights. This is extremely important, especially since art has been happening for centuries, thousands of years before 1990, as we obviously know. And this gives artists the rights over their artwork. So on conventional canvases that are 8 by 10, whatever, to movies, to books, to TV shows, and when in sanctioned areas, graffiti. So to answer the question, when does the law protect graffiti? It's essentially in sanctioned areas. Why is graffiti art? We see in Keeping It Real, Subculture Graffiti, Street Art, Heritage, and Authenticity, we get that it's gone through style changes to keep up with the times. In ancient Greece, they used sculptures. In the Renaissance, they used more watercolor paints. And now, we've moved on from watercolor paints to spray paint, essentially. There are different calligraphy types, techniques, and materials. These different materials, they don't just use spray paint, they can also use just normal paint, or charcoal, or even chalk. Sometimes graffiti artists even use stencils. Just like formal art, graffiti also has meaning to the person that tagged it. And remember, that's the person who painted the art. The person that tagged their street art has a meaning, but some people just choose to disregard this because they see it as graffiti. And that has to do with the negative stereotypes around it. To recap, I told you about the history, the meaning, the laws, and why graffiti should be considered art. Graffiti has been around since prehistoric times and still is prevalent today. It has meaning. This picture, this graffiti, obviously has meaning. We don't know what that meaning is necessarily. We can all draw our own meanings from it, but it has meaning. Just like this picture that was painted during the Renaissance, and it's called The Grieving Woman. This also has meaning. There's meaning to street art just as much as more classical art. And just like there are laws to protect art that is on small canvas, those same laws protect art that is on a more unconventional canvas. Also, like contemporary art, street art has different styles and techniques that change as the times change. Like we covered between the sculptures in ancient Greece to the watercolors of the Renaissance to nowadays where we use spray paints. The only difference between street art and classical art is that one of them is viewed negatively and the other is viewed positively. We need to stop viewing street art so negatively and have more places sanctioned for this type of